I'm Congressman Adriano ESPAILLAT, and I represent the 13th Congressional District of New York, the Village of Harlem, East Harlem, El Barrio, Northern Manhattan, that's Washington Heights, Inwood, Marble Hill, and of course, Hamilton Heights, as well as the North Forest Bronx. These are very important neighborhoods in the city of New York. They make up great communities, but our country is facing unprecedented times. COVID-19 continues to affect every aspect of our lives. Citizens are demanding racial justice and accountability from the police department. That is why I'm working hard with every member of the community to ensure that Washington responds to this great need that we're facing as a nation and as a district. We're fighting to get more PPEs for doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, so hospital and local physicians are equipped to fight the pandemic. We're bringing money for small businesses, PPP loans, forgivable loans. Over 6,000 businesses benefited from these forgivable loans. In addition, over 500 businesses benefited from the grant program given by New York Presbyterian Hospital. We're fighting to make sure that our school is prepared for distance learning. And we're fighting to make sure that the dollars are included so that the schools could open up again. These are truly unprecedented times, but I'm working with you, the community, passing legislation in Washington, making sure that ICE is held accountable at the border with a body camera, ensuring that we protect and preserve affordable units in East Harlem, making sure the environment is protected. An environmental amendment that I presented will be included in each and every one of the environmental bills passed by Congress to ensure that those that are disproportionately hurt by climate change get a bigger piece of the pie. We're also looking at the environmental problem worldwide. How can we help other countries that are facing droughts in Central America, that are facing other equally important and hurtful climate conditions? So yes, we have a lot on the table, but I know that this diverse community really strengthens itself exactly from its diversity. And that's why I am proud to represent the 13th Congressional District of New York. Thank you. This is Congressman Adriano ESPAILLAT.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. Today is the anniversary of 9/11. I rushed back from DC so I could be present at this morning's ceremony, where the names of those who died on that terrible day are read aloud and remembered. It's an incredibly moving experience to hear that ceremony and to remember that almost 3,000 New Yorkers died that day, but many more lost their health care because they worked at the hazardous site. For 18 years, I worked to pass a bill known as the James Zadroga Health and Compensation Act, which gave health care and compensation to our heroes and heroines. They rushed in to save our lives. It's important that we are there now to give them the health care they so justly deserve. I'm proud of having authored and passed that bill. It took me 18 years to do it. So you can't say that I'm not determined and that I don't work hard and that I don't persevere for what I believe in. Now, I want to go back to Congress to continue to work towards expanding access to affordable and available health care by strengthening the Affordable Care Act and passing Medicare for all. I don't know how anyone could live through this pandemic and not agree that health care is a human right. As a former teacher, I'm dedicated to education, to supporting the teachers, parents, staff, and students, and I'm working to make sure that our schools and localities have the funding they need to ensure our children can learn safely, our teachers can teach safely during this pandemic. And as all New Yorkers know, transportation has always been a huge priority of mine. I've brought over $10 billion in federal funding home to my district since I've been in Congress, and I have the two largest infrastructure projects, not in New York City, not in New York State, but in the entire country in the district I represent. And I worked hard to bring those federal dollars to build them. The Second Avenue subway is the only subway that has been built in our country during the time I've been in Congress. It was planned for 100 years. It was a priority of mine when I went to Congress. I made it happen. And the other is the East Side Connector, which connects the LIRR from Queens to Manhattan and modernizes Grand Central for the 21st century. I have the honor of representing 3 boroughs, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. When I was first elected, the worst bridge in the state with the most accidents and delays connected the Queens and Brooklyn parts of my district, the Kosciuszko Bridge. It is now the best bridge in our country. 9 lanes, totally modern, and built with over $900 million in federal funds. And I'm proud of bringing the money in to modernize the L train, connecting Brooklyn and Manhattan with almost $1 billion in federal funding. When I see a problem, I work hard, I attack it. I have a long history of passing important legislation, which you can read more about on my website, CarolynMaloney.com. That's why I was listed the #1 leader in Congress by GovTrack. My priorities are better health care, more jobs, housing, public housing, passing the Green New Deal, education, and transportation. I view public service as a loan, one which I must repay each and every day I'm in office. I hope my work in Congress continues to merit your support. Thank you.
My name is Carlos Santiago-CANO. I am running for Congress to represent you, the people of the 12th Congressional District. Our current elected official is a career politician that has been there for over 30 years. She's been in politics for 40 years. And yet, after decades in office, we get no results in our district for our people. Affordable housing in our district, in our city, is non-existent. The homeless population of the city has been increasing every single year. Our transportation system is crumbling. Affordable healthcare is non-existent, right? And big businesses keep being prioritized over small businesses. It is time for new leadership in our city. It is time for elected officials to be held accountable for their broken promises. Every 2 years, the current Congresswoman makes the same promises about fixing all these issues I just mentioned. And yet, every single election, she gets nothing done. Together, with your help, we can take our city back. We can make New York City the city that it should be, and make it the city that will set an example for the rest of the country. It is time to end party politics and start working for the people that we represent. I look forward to earning your support, and please come out and vote November 3rd. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brian Kavanaugh, and I'm running for re-election to the State Senate representing the 26th District in Lower Manhattan and the western part of Brooklyn. I was first elected to the Senate in 2017, and I spent many years before that serving New Yorkers in the State Assembly. As a leading voice in the new Democratic majority in the Senate, I'm proud of the transformative changes we've been able to achieve in the most active legislative term in recent memory. As the chair of the Housing Committee, I led the Senate effort to enact the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act, which gave New York the toughest tenant protections in the nation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I've worked to keep a moratorium of evictions in place so New Yorkers are not displaced from their homes, and I'm committed to the fight for comprehensive rent relief so the public health and financial crisis doesn't become a long-term housing and homelessness crisis. I also wrote and enacted the strongest legislation in the country to provide mortgage forbearance for homeowners struggling to pay their bills during the pandemic. I've been a strong advocate for the environment, and I was a proud co-sponsor of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which mandates huge cuts in climate pollution, investment in clean and renewable energy, creation of green jobs, and environmental justice. I've also been a leader in the successful effort to reform our campaign finance and election laws to make it easier for all New Yorkers to participate in our democracy and not have their voices drowned out by special interests. For many years now, I've played a major role in passing some of the nation's toughest laws to prevent gun violence. And this year, I was proud to co-sponsor the legislative package we enacted in June to ensure greater accountability, equity, and effectiveness in the ways our police officers serve and protect our communities. Of course, as we continue to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and the enormous financial crisis that has resulted from business shutdowns and declining tax revenues, it's going to be a huge challenge to get New York back on its feet and working again. I know many people are still struggling. I'm running for re-election because I want to continue to do everything I can to bring people together to help New York recover and prosper, and to ensure that our recovery reflects our priorities and our values as New Yorkers. I'm Brian Kavanaugh, and if you live in the 26th Senate District, I'd appreciate your support on Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd, or during early voting. And if you live elsewhere, please vote for Democrats in our federal and state elections. Thank you.
Good day, New Yorkers. My name is Lester Chang. I'm running for New York State Senate. In my family, I'm the first American-born Chinese to immigrant parents who came to this country in search of a better life and opportunities. I started my life in Eldridge Street in Lower East Side. I'm a proud product of public school education, earning my degrees up to master's. I have 23 years in the Navy Reserve and also an Afghanistan war veteran. Previous work experience of over 20 years in senior management in global trade and logistics. In addition, I worked with 30 years in Board of Election as a post-site coordinator in Chinatown. I lived downtown near Little Italy for over 30 years. March of this year, I volunteered to be mobilized again to active duty as first responder in support of COVID operations, where I helped to convert Jacob Javits Convention Center into a field hospital over 2,000 beds in 3 weeks. Today, we live in a different time. We have a war against an unseen enemy called COVID-19, which I think we need an aggressive solution to help New York. First, as a beneficiary of public school education, I support SAT testing. I will lift or eliminate charter school cap. I will stop state-mandated school curriculum to parochial, private, or yeshivas. Second, crime. Recent sky-high crime rate and gun violence. The no new bail law that was passed is not working. Create unintended consequences, promote serialized criminal and are released back in the streets. I will modify this bail law by having the judge to decide the bail amount and create a 3-strike rule. After the third arrest, no new bail options are forfeited. Third, I do not support building community jail. Keep Rikers Island, but renovate them to a 21st century correction facilities. In addition, I will build a transitional facilities to former inmates for job training and any other support service for them and pay them during the transition before they're released into society. Fourth, homelessness. At Rikers, I will build a dormitory-like facilities, but pay them to stay there so we can house them, feed them, train them, treat them, detox them, and importantly, build self-esteem and characters and properly introduce them to society similar to a military recruit. I believe our current wasteful tactics of sheltering them overnight without support does not work. I like the idea of former presidential candidate Andrew Yang, who introduced an idea called universal basic income. I will modify that to low to middle income New Yorkers, use the money without restriction, or even go towards paying rent. I think this way will solve our homeless issue. Fifth, surprise medical bill. For those who have insurance, when you're in an emergency room or having surgery or hospitalized with COVID, there are independent doctors working in the hospital that may not accept your insurance. You will get a surprise medical bill called out of network. I will pass a bill requiring all doctors to accept your insurance unconditionally as in-network. These and few examples of aggressive ideas I bring to battle against this pandemic. I will always promote and secure New York City, the city I love, the city I'm born in, and I hope you can support me on Election Day, November 3rd. My name is Lester Chang.
Hi, I'm Judy Graham, and I'm campaigning for the New York State Assembly representing the 73rd District. I've been a New Yorker for almost 40 years, and I've been a business owner. You might even call me an unpaid activist. I am campaigning to unseat the incumbent of 9 years, Mr. Dan Quart, and I hope that I will earn your vote. A couple of things about Dan. One is a little bit disturbing to me. You see, Dan is actively campaigning to be the New York City district attorney, all the while wanting to keep his seat in Albany. So I don't know exactly how he can do both, but if he could share his Superman cape with me and the rest of us, maybe we can all figure out how to save this city once more. I do believe in law and law enforcement. I believe we need to bring back bail, and we need to make criminals come to justice. I believe that gravity knives should be banned, something that my opponent repealed. No one can convince me that a 4-inch blade is a tool. It's not. It's a weapon. And I have the proof, and I know firsthand how that weapon ended up slashing a friend of mine. A homeless situation is not only a humanitarian one, it's also a health concern. But with compassion and sensitivity, we can make this issue much better than it's ever been. This election in November, it's not about Joe Biden, and it's not about Donald Trump. It's about us. Do we want to continue on the same path of crime, lawlessness, businesses people out of work, businesses closed, schools not working effectively, homeless population infiltrating us? I don't think we do. What I would like to do is bring law and bring sensitivity and sensibility back to the city. I'm the Dragon Lady, and I have a plan and a purpose and a broom to clean up the Upper East Side, and together we can make a clean sweep and make this city the shining jewel it's always been. Oh, and one more thing about me. I will be your full-time representative, completely committed to what it is that you want. I'm Judy Graham for New York Assembly, and I approve this message.
My name is Rebecca SEAWRIGHT. Since 2015, I've had the honor of serving as your Assembly member for the Upper East Side, Yorkville, and Roosevelt Island. I am running for re-election on the Rise and Unite party line. First, I am dedicated to continue advocating for our community in Albany on the urgent needs created by the coronavirus public health crisis. Second, we will continue to build on the ongoing help we provide our neighbors through our highly active storefront community office. And third, I have been and always will be passionate and persistent about fighting for the progressive ideals that we as Democrats and New Yorkers hold dear to our hearts. I am the lead sponsor of the Equal Rights Amendment to the state constitution, which passed the Assembly. I am the sponsor and co-sponsor of numerous women's rights, LGBTQ+ laws to combat discrimination and ensure equality. I was the lead sponsor of the state law requiring insurance companies to pay for 3D mammograms. As the first woman to be elected to the state assembly in my district since its creation in 1777, I will always fight for opportunity, equality, and justice for all, and against sexism, racism, anti-Semitism, and bigotry of all kinds. I distributed thousands of medical supplies and masks and sanitizers to frontline workers and constituents, meals to senior citizens, and help for our unemployed workers and tenants at risk. We have helped small business owners to obtain and fill out loans, assisted neighbors to navigate government bureaucracies, and organized press conferences to call attention to our inadequate health care. I have been a resident of our district for over 25 years, a former PTA leader whose children attended public schools and colleges. I'm a public interest attorney, former assistant district attorney, and I fight for full funding for our public schools and universities, for rent relief and tenant protections, for criminal justice reforms, and for stronger gun control laws. I've obtained over $12 million for our senior citizens, public schools, libraries, parks, and nonprofit organizations. I have hosted 25 consecutive weekly Tuesday town halls since COVID hit. I humbly ask you to vote to re-elect me on the Rise and Unite line. I thank you, and stay well and stay safe.
Hi, my name is SULTAN, and I'm currently the district leader for the 70th Assembly in New York City, and I am a candidate for State Senate 30, representing portions of the Upper East Side, the Upper West Side, El Barrio, Central Harlem, West Harlem, Cherry Hill, and Hamilton Heights. I'm running to be your state senator because I've spent a couple of years, I've been involved for almost 10 years in Harlem, working on community building, a bit of anti-human trafficking, working on homeless issues. I've been a member of the 5-Borough Homelessness Commission, which has advanced policy in Albany. I've also worked with the City University of New York to create cybersecurity jobs with John Jay College. And now what I'm looking to do is to really advance this work with some of the federal opportunity zones and make sure that we have resources coming in for our citizens in New York City. If you think about this, you know, constituents like you are challenged by a tremendous amount of issues inside of the COVID era. We've got a lack of community banking. We've got a huge problem with homelessness. We've got increasing problems with crime. And I've developed policies and I'm also starting to test some, one focused on police reform, because this is a tremendous issue that we need to start tackling now, not later. And part of that is going back to what's worked in 1995, what's worked in New York, which includes some of the leadership working 4 days on, 3 days off, and also walking their communities, cops living where they work. And also bringing block captains back and block watch, because we haven't had that. And then at the same token, for homelessness, what we're looking at is what we can do in terms of shifting state budgets. One of the things that I'm going to propose is that we take the current recycling export budget. We pay $270 million a year to export our recycling. We don't do anything with it, but we could be selling that to India, to North Africa, to be turned into renewable textiles, which actually turns that from a cost center into a profit center for the state. So there's money that can be allocated to start fixing homeless and veterans issues, which I don't think a lot of legislators are thinking about right now. And then the last goes to creating $100,000 jobs and bigger opportunities for New York. And bringing in community banking and PPP loans. I have a number of connections with, you know, a number of agencies in Washington, D.C., and we've been working steadily for the past couple of years to figure out how we bring those funds in. And then, you know, the goal here is let's see how we can make New York thrive again. How can we make New York alive again? And I also have a question for Brian Benjamin, who I'm running against. Brian Benjamin is currently running for not just this seat, but controller. So it's a little greedy, don't you think? And what we really need is we need someone who's going to represent our community and not necessarily be looking at multitudes of offices as a hedge. I just don't think it's fair to you. I don't think it's fair to any of us. And I think really if Brian Benjamin was standing for fixing New York, that he would throw his hat in and endorse me, and we could work across the aisle in order to try and fix things. Because if he wants to be controller, and he has said that the only office he's interested in is controller, well then, you know, please consider me on November 3rd. Because we've got a lot of work to do. I've been putting it in for years, and I really want to be the candidate that helps you, helps us, and fixes New York. Thank you for your consideration. You can find out more at oz4ny.com, and you can find me pretty much on all social media, also at oz4ny.com. That's OZFORNY.com. I thank you for your consideration and ask you for your support November 3rd, and let's fix New York together.
Hi, my name is Michael ZUMBLUSKAS, and I'm running for New York State Senate in the 28th Senatorial District, which basically runs from the river to the Central Park from 94th Street down to in the 30s. I also go all the way down to 10th Street, but it shifts from 2nd Avenue to 3rd Avenue, Gramercy Park, Sutton Place, and all these things are part of my district. The reason why I'm running is I think we need new and creative leadership. Right now, we are in an economic depression. We have been shut down, and our economy is in a depression. We have almost 60% of our small businesses that will never reopen. And we have to come up with creative ideas to actually start them up again and create new businesses for the new economy. Right now, we know that 60% of all the business, 60% of all the businesses from 60th Street down to the ferry cater to tourism and to the work crowd. Neither one of them are going to come back for 2 or 3 years. And the work crowd might never come back to the full extent because people have learned to work from home. And some companies have found out they've been 95% efficient. We can't stop that. So we have to come up with new and creative ideas. Most of our politicians have been in there forever. They were, before they were elected, they were either lawyers or come out of the nonprofit industry or worked on other politicians' staffs. We need new thinking. I have worked in the nonprofit industry. I've worked in the private industry, and currently I work for New York City's Department of Transportation as a resource management analyst. If we do not change and come up with creative ideas, New York could be the next Detroit. And I know you don't want it, and I definitely don't want it. We also have to, and the other major thing we have to address besides the COVID is the quality of life in the safety concerns. When you have a 92-year-old woman in Gramercy Park being punched in broad daylight, we have to stop this. One of the things I want to do is if you attack a senior citizen, I want to tack 5 years onto your sentence. Those are the most vulnerable, and we can't do that. I have unique ideas on how we can change our school systems, our homeless policies. Go to my website, www.electmikez.com, and you will see these unique ideas. Also, to waylay some concerns that I've heard from especially establishment. I have worked in politics since '92. I have friends that are currently chiefs of staffs or former chiefs of staffs. My vice chairman has worked in the halls of Albany for 30 years. So I will not be going in there and have a steep learning curve. But remember, come out and vote on November 3rd. If you want to change, if you want quality of life to resume, economic life to resume, vote for me, Michael ZUMBLUSKAS. Go to www.electmikez.com, find out more information, and thank you, and see you in November.